Bernie Orenstein was in California, I was in Miami, and Pat Boone was going to get a talk show, hopefully. NBC wanted to do a talk show, and they hired Ron to write it. He was doing the Hollywood Palace at the time, and said, get another writer, and he asked me, because we had met when I was doing Candid Camera, when I was doing the On Broadway Tonight. It was being directed by Stan Harris, who was from Toronto, and he and Bernie were friends in Toronto. And Stan and Faye made a party at their house. Bernie had come down to be a writer in America. He was at the party. That's when we met and became friendly. Now, Bernie went into Candid Camera when I left. He went into Les Crane Show when I left. The Les Crane Show came out here. Nick Vanoff became the producer. And Bernie being out here, they asked him if he would write for Pat, and then they said, get a partner, and Bernie called me in Miami, said, you want to do this? I said, you bet, because that was where I had to be, in California. So I came out and did the pilot with Bernie, and the show sold. So he was going back to the Hollywood Palace, and I came out here to do the show, and that's what brought Shirley and me and Adam and John to California. That script we wrote together for Pat, you know, questions, answers, kibitzing. The guests on that show were Dick Van Dyke and singer, God, sweet little girl. She was Mexican, but nobody knew it. She's like an American girl. I may think of it later. At any rate, we would write what had to be written, and that was that. That ended. Bernie went back to Carol, to Hollywood Palace, and I stayed and did Pat for that year. Together we decided, Persky and Denoff, who were producing Marlowe's show at the time, we knew we had to get into sitcoms. So Persky and Denoff were doing Marlowe. Gary Marshall had come out, and he was doing a show called Hey Landlord. And I called them, I said, we got to get into this stuff. Can you give us an episode? And they, of course, friends, 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 God bless them. So we wrote a show for Marlowe, we wrote a show for Gary. And Marlowe loved the show we wrote for her. Suddenly they asked us to do 3 more. And we did that at night in our spare time. But in the 40 years that Bernie and I later, it started in 68, the 50 years.
Wow.
That we wrote together, 68 to 98, 30 years. 30 years we wrote together. We never wrote in the same room. Sitcoms were 2 acts. Open, teaser, commercial, first act, commercial, second act, commercial, tag. Now they have 5 commercials in the show, and the whole show is 22 minutes now. When we were doing it, it was like 26, 28. At any rate, we would come up together, we would talk about a show, an idea, and we had to worry about the 2 big acts. He would write the first act, I would write the second act separately, or vice versa. And then one of us would take them and put the names together. I would have the grocer named Charlie, he would have the grocer named Harry, so we made them both Billy. And that's how we wrote. We never sat in the same room.